Is just a friendly advice grammatical? I know that advice is uncountable and thus is incompatible with the article a. However, the phrase just a friendly advice seems to be rather widespread. Is it idiomatic or incorrect? What is a more grammatical form?
If you use an article with advice, you have to use a counter. A friendly piece of advice. A friendly bit of advice. No one who is fluent in English, Ame or Brie, would say a friendly advice. Wrong. To omit the article, those speakers would say some friendly advice.
Dear reader, I'm going to offer you a little friendly advice. When checking to see if something is grammatical, do not rely on a Google search. Google will return hits from blogs and message boards, which are not necessarily reliable sources for determining correct English. Google will also return other odd nuggets, such as a fraction of a user's handle. Instead, use Google Books, which restricts the search to published works, where the number of results will be a more reliable indicator. For example, typing just a friendly advice into Google returns roughly 1 million hits. Surely 1 million hits can't be wrong, right? Well, let's look at a few of these. The text I have bolded may help indicate the reliability of the wording. From a message board, just a friendly advice. So, here's an advice. Quitting is hard, but don't give up. The Easily Stop Smoking Worldwide program, NOSMOC, was proven to be the easiest, most effective, and possible real herbal treatment of smoking for just 4 to 7 days from a message board. Whoa. Just a friendly advice MHO, I think, is more self-explanatory to show crops at 1-to-1 ratio. And Square helps to make a difference between the original and the crop at first sight. From a cat, just a friendly advice, think very carefully about what you're going to do next. From a message board, just a friendly advice for those faulting there are 6. So back when I first started writing with an 88FZ750, it always died on me. So much that I always had jumper cables and a set of tools on me. Now with my R6, I don't need the cables, but I still carry a set of tools in case something does happen. Today was that day. On my way to work, my Bazaar unit crapped out and died, leaving me with error 39 on the side of the road. It was early morning, so tech support were still sleeping. I didn't want to pay towing fees, so I proceeded to remove the whole Bazaar harness on the road, or just enough to get to work and home. After about 30 minutes, I rewired the lower injectors back to stock and she fired right up. Not running perfect, but she still gets to places. It was also 90 out at 8 a.m., so having water helps. As for that last one, I'd love to have that guy stop to help me on the side of the road, but I wouldn't want him proofreading my term paper. Moving the search to Google Books cuts the number of results down from roughly 1 million to a very small handful. Some may claim there is nothing wrong with it. I suppose that would depend on what was meant by wrong. If I can say, just a friendly hint, shouldn't I also be able to say, just a friendly advice? I suppose I could. After all, this writer did. However, discussion board titles notwithstanding, I think most hearers would find it awkward. I'd be more inclined to follow Robusto's guidance, which sounds much more natural to my ear.
On the topic of a friendly advice having 1,070,000 hits, some friendly advice gets 137 million hits. In other words, the 1,070,000 million, despite the impressive number of digits, is a fraction of 1% of the total and therefore 1,070,000 mistakes. Ngram confirms this. Advice is uncountable, so it should be B, some friendly advice, which is reflected in the Ngram above.
Is just a friendly advice grammatical? Assuming you meant grammatical in its grammatically correct form, then, no, it isn't. Advice is a non-countable noun and, as such, an advice is invalid. Injecting the adjective friendly does not change that. Here are some correct equivalents. Just a friendly piece of advice. Just a friendly bit of advice. Just a friendly morsel of advice. Just some friendly advice. The mistake you made, I think, was in trusting a Google hit count to suggest the correctness of an English phrase. A cursory glance across a few arbitrary websites indicates that this is silly.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.